We are talking education this hour, and I'd love to hear from you. If you could start a school from scratch, what would be there? Or what would you exclude? Because if the last 2 years have taught us anything, is that education can adapt faster than we ever thought. Frankly, teachers are more incredible than we realised. And speaking honestly, homeschooling aged me by about a decade. But Bloom World Academy is launching later this year with some differences that, well, that you might be used to seeing in Dubai schools, from the timings to the learning achievement passports. We're going to be finding about those very soon. So let's find out what's been happening behind the scenes now with founding principal John Bell. Welcome, Mr. Bell. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
How are the stress levels, sir?
Not so bad. We're doing okay.
So what is the opening date? What are you working to?
August the 29th, the start of the school year, along with all the other schools in Dubai. So we're working back from there.
Dum, dum, dum. But it started obviously a lot earlier than this. Yeah. Can you tell us when it comes to like building a concept, and I find it fascinating thinking about starting, let's say, a restaurant or a business. But with a school, I mean, my goodness, it's so much more important than, what you might get on your plate. You're looking at, the building blocks of a child's life. How do you start to put together those pieces, to do research about what parents want and ultimately come up with a product that they're going to want to buy?
Well, I think fundamentally it was a coming of minds, actually, of various people who had a genuine interest in developing Bloom World Academy, from Bloom Education through to myself and the other leaders that we've appointed very quickly. And we've really thought about, based on, there's a fact where between us, as in the leadership team, we have 100 years of experience, of which I contribute 1 or 2. And, we have collected, we have observed, we've thought about, and we've really worked out, particularly in the last period, as you said, during this COVID period, what really works, what should be different about putting children first and really families first. Because I don't think, in many respects, not just in Dubai, but in many places, education hasn't really kept up with some of the things that we should be doing in terms of how we want to live our life, how we want to put emphasis on the family. If we want to do those kind of things, education needs to play its part.
I couldn't agree more, and I say that as a parent and someone who's never worked in education. But I think that family first piece is really interesting. What have you observed, in other parts of the world that you think that's something that we really don't want to be doing?
Well, I think a school's got to, as part of its fundamental guarantee to parents, is to provide a good enough education between the moment the child comes in the door to the moment the child leaves, and that should be good enough. And I don't think pressures should be put on children too much and families outside those times. It should be optional in some regards. So the guarantee at Bloom World Academy is that if you do what you need to do during the day, you will succeed. If you go beyond that, in homework terms, half terms, end of the school year, those kind of things, if you go beyond that, and that's effort, and we reward effort, we have to acknowledge effort, then you will be exceptional. That's the deal. The deal has to be. And, it's all tied up with lots of other things. Value for money is another one.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say, is that it's a very, I went to a state comprehensive in the UK. I've never paid for education apart from university. But, speaking now as a paying parent of my daughter's education, and I don't want to say it's a customer experience, but in some ways it kind of is. It's an exchange of money for services, which, often calls a bit more scrutiny, perhaps, of education, and perhaps almost a bit of a right to contribute ideas. Parents feel like they are emotionally invested as well as financially invested.
Yeah, absolutely, on both counts. I think on the economics, that we need to give good value. Go back a few years when I was inspecting schools in the UK, the last decision you ever made on an inspection was, is that school value for money in terms of the state and the taxpayers' money? And I think the absolute same must be here. It's the biggest outlay that parents will make, families will make. It's a huge amount of money, so consequently we must be accountable for that and provide good value. Good value is a combination of children being safe and happy, of course, and achieving. All those three go together. On the contribution front, look, let's be fair. Parents want to be involved in school life, and the COVID period has actually sort of enhanced that feeling, intensified that feeling. So let's go there. Let's do this together. We're describing as the child is the captain of the team, and we're in their team. And parents in the team, they love them, we quite like them. And by definition, between us, we can support that learning, their learning. And children will go all sorts of places with that level of support. But we've got to make it happen. So we have to find opportunities to come together, both informally and formally, as a community.
We've got messages coming in on this topic of if you could design a school from scratch, what would you include? And I love it. Jackson, age 9, has been in touch. Hi, Jackson, saying, at my school, you must take a personality test to see how you are tested, based on your personality, not on how you remember things.
Very good.
That's a great one. On a message here, no name on it, so please put your name in, saying, OMG, this is a question I love. I've been mapping out an idea for a school I'd love to start. Focused on critical independent thinking, called LEAD, leadership, entrepreneurship, activism, design. The core of this age 7 to 12 school would be a seminar class each year focus on developing creative and independent thinking. There'd be a grade for work habits and work skills that factored into their GPA. Lots of thought going into this, guys. Let us know if you could design a school from scratch, and I'm talking curriculum, amenities, attitude, hours. What do you think would be a really valuable change for the future? We're in conversation today with the founding principal of Bloom World Academy, opening, as he said, next term. Dum, dum, dum. John Bell is in the studio. We're talking next about some of the differences that are going to be implemented there with that family first focus, from opening hours to something called a learning achievement passport. What is it? We're going to be finding out next. More of Asking Education this hour. And if you could design a school from scratch, start one with all of your ideals, your goals, your values, the facilities that you think are important for growth from children all the way through, what would you put in that school? Let me know on 4001, and you can use your ARN Play app too, plus the WhatsApp. If you haven't saved the WhatsApp number, get on it. It's 048715500.
Family Matters.
On afternoon, Principal John Bell, he's going to be opening Bloom World Academy come 29th of August. The countdown is on. Zara saying, I would definitely include psychology from a young age, as it includes so many aspects of personality traits, memory, child development and social interaction. Message earlier talking about critical independent thinking, John. This is something that's really dear to your heart as well.
Indeed. And as is that last point about psychology through the years. The whole basis of the school is the child as an inquirer, the learner. You know, the clever bit about what we will try to do is it will be behind the scenes, highly choreographed. We will know what children are learning, where they're learning, and how they're learning. But on the surface, it will appear very seriously that the children are doing many things by their own accord. But we're redefining teaching a little bit to go with this, because the role of the teacher is just not as the instructor. Mm-hmm. It is the planner, the organiser, giving them time to do so. And importantly, to have time to link with parents. Every day they will see parents is part of their working day. And just picking up on that point around psychology, I mean, we are running a spiral curriculum from the very youngest to the very eldest, which means we'll return to the same social and emotional topics year on year based on the maturity of the child. And the neat way of thinking of this is, with the youngest children, we will be developing independent skills, being away from mummy and daddy. What do you do with 18-year-olds? You do exactly the same, because actually what do? They call them mum and dad at that point, but ultimately they are becoming independent and going away. So the spiral curriculum, the psychology of being a child who knows what to do when they don't know what to do, it runs right through the school.
So how have you found recruiting then? Because it must take, I don't want to say a different type of teacher, but maybe it does take a different kind of teacher to embrace some of these philosophies and a different way of teaching that they might be used to. How have you recruited, and how are you feeling about the squad lineup for September time?
It's a good way of putting it. Well, at Bloom World Academy, I'm absolutely delighted to say that we've been inundated without advertising. I think we're up to about 8,500 applications for posts. We're at point. Without trying, we have appointed just over the 50, pushing the 60 teachers, a very flat structure. Most of the teachers are decision makers. They've decided to do it differently. They're experienced, they are thoughtful, they are practitioners, most of them in Dubai already, although we have some international recruits too. And I am thoroughly, the squad term is really good. This is a strong squad. This is a strong squad. And, by definition, we will create the systems in which they can work. This is my form, the opportunity I've been given to be creative, and in turn, I hope they feel secure enough to be creative themselves. So yes, I mean, we can guarantee high quality teachers.
You sound excited.
I do.
Talking there about being away from mummy and daddy, and you had saying fantasy school, saving and investing at an early age while learning how to make money work for you. It's been such a missing piece that a lot of apps have been trying to address. It's something me as a parent, I'm still but unsure about how to teach to my 5 and 7-year-old. And do you think school has a role to play in that financial literacy?
I think probably more so than in many parts of the world, to be perfectly honest. I think children have a perspective that if you go to schools such as Bloom, or any of the schools in Dubai, for that matter, you are relatively privileged. And you have to have that social awareness, you have to have that sort of financial awareness around you that you are privileged, and that having a value for money is very important. And so the teaching of economics, the teaching of monetary processes and values is a significant part of what we do. Financial common sense, and go back to the 18-year-olds who leave, and that financial common sense, one of the biggest issues is understanding how best to make your money go where it needs to go when you're in a university in a different country. So yes, that will be taught through the curriculum, but also fundamentally, we're going to have an opportunity to bring all the children together every day in a forum. That's another thing we're going to do, which is about child's voice, student voice, is that in a forum, a face-to-face, four-sided, tiered forum, we will bring children together where they can voice about how the school is managed, how it is run. And we hope there's a real contribution about whether we're providing good value to their mum and dad, because it's flipping it. Is this school good value? Your mummy and daddy, your mum and dad are paying.
Yeah, it's as you say, significant outlays for a family budget. And I'm not sure all children understand that. My kids are like, well, have you got money for this? I'm like, well, yes, I technically do have money in my bank for this, but we also need to be paying for, your education and your shoes and I think, but that's also a conversation that needs to continue at home about what things are costing us. So, right, I want to find out about these learning achievement passports. This is a completely new phrase for me. Is this a new concept altogether?
No. In many regards, what we are doing at Bloom World Academy is recycling. Recycling a lot of ideas that I've seen or been part of over many years. I can go back to London in the 1980s where we did this I worked with a significant group of quite challenging youngsters, and we individually planned for them. This is taking it to a whole new level. This is normalising, if you like, personalisation. Every child will have a learning achievement passport, which is effectively a digital and real document to say what they can do very well. So an assessment of, which we'll get to know them in the first month. When they're warmed up, we'll understand what they can do, how they can do it, what they can learn and how they can learn. And we will set targets. We will set targets about age-related expectations, what we would expect them to be learning at that age or stage of education. And we will be setting targets for development, targets that would take you beyond age-related expectations. But the most important thing about a learning achievement passport is owned by the child, and every month we will meet with the parent or parents and the family and the child to discuss what's in that passport. The big thing about it ultimately is cumulative. You go there every month, nine reports a year, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel in the year after because the passport goes with you. So in year 2 of Bloom World Academy, it just rolls through. And so we're not reassessing or readapting what we have to do. It is a continuum.
That handover is smoother year to year. But presumably, I'm putting my kind of parent hat on rather than journalist hat on. From a parent point of view, this will allow a lot more knowledge and understanding of what's happening, because to my mind a lot can change in a term. You could have an absolute glorious parent-teacher evening one term and the next time go down with your tail between your legs and think, crikey, where did it all go wrong? But on a month-to-month basis, it allows you presumably to keep a much closer eye on what's going on.
Yeah, fundamentally it's the culture and art of no surprises.
Exactly.
That's what it is. A lot can change in a week in a child's life. A lot can change in a day in a child's life if something untoward can happen. But more importantly is that trends around learning, whether children's progress is on the rise or is flatlining or is dropping off, it's anticipatory. You can intervene. You can change things on a monthly basis. Now, some of that might be things that need to be done at home. Some things maybe we need to do different at school. The concept we're also talking about is unlearning, because it's important. Some children may have learned things. Maybe the foundations are not there or not appropriately. And sometimes we've got to strip it back, particularly in areas like mathematics. We've got to strip things back to see where the roadblock might be in the learning. So, yes, it's no surprises. So if your child is doing well, you will know. You will know what we know. The child will know themselves. They're the captain of the team, as I said. It's transparent. It's digital based. It will be an app as well. So parents can actually see this in real time, progress. Now, it's a lot of work for teachers, but that's what we've set out to do.
John, I wanted to ask you lastly, and we've seen some things in the UK press over last week about examination changes happening and perhaps going with online tests instead. Given COVID and how we've seen GCSEs cancelled and kind of gradings shifted based on not being able to be in the exam room or staff availability, how do you feel about kind of the future of testing examination with the, as you say, the student front and centre of the experience?
I think we should know exactly what a child could achieve before they ever set in an exam. That, again, a culture of no surprises. So the ongoing learning, the continuous assessment, the assessment for learning, knowing where you are going. I don't think sometimes there's anything wrong with a pressurised situation.
No, because there's no getting away from them in real life.
And this is what we're doing now. Pressure does exist, and so there's nothing wrong with that. But again, a child should be able to go into an examination. I have my reservations about online testing. I have my reservations about a setup or a process which is a teach and test culture. So we're constantly testing children. I think that doesn't bring out the best in many children. It's good for some, but I think conceptually we need to reward effort, and effort works both ways, by the way. Everybody thinks effort's about rewarding children who maybe not doing so well. I know many and have worked with many children who are very, very bright and work hard, and it's just noticing how a child does. Sometimes examinations are good for some because it brings their education to a rescue point if they've not been doing so well. But they're in the minority, actually. Most children, and this generation of children, this genuine underestimated, they do a lot of things very well.
That's a lovely note to end on. Thank you so much for sharing what's been happening, as I said, behind the scenes and thinking about how things can be done differently. I know you've not only been overwhelmed by applications for teachers, but you've got an awful lot of students going to be going into your classrooms come September as well. But if anyone does want to get in touch and find out more about Bloom World Academy, what's the best way of getting in touch?
Directly, I think Bloom World Academy. I think we are... Our website is there now, ready. Well, our page, our link into that is there, or Bloom World Academy directly. If you look at the media, it's there. Or come and see us. We are very approachable. And what's more important is that we are seeing, and between us, leadership team and myself, are seeing every single parent and talking through this in depth.
Because it's a lot to think about. It's a lot to, from our parents' point, as parents' point of view, we're unlearning as well.
Yeah, indeed. It's all risk management. Sending a child to a new school is a big risk. The big difference with us and Bloom World Academy, one hopes, is that we create this together. We create the community together. From the founding teachers, the founding parents, the founding children, will create a community.
Well, thank you, John, for sharing what's been happening. Really do appreciate it. If you do want information on the school, you can get in touch with me as well. I'll be happy to share that link on 4001. Founding principal of Bloom World Academy, John Bell.